Welcome to our Virtual Parent Summit 2020, and welcome to our featured speaker session today. This is going to be an amazing session for you that you serve families and students in the community. This session has been specifically designed for those of us who serve families and students at school sites or districts, and we serve in the area of family engagement and also serving English learners and dual language learner students. So we hope that you enjoy this session. And I want to say that if you're a parent partner joining us in this session, please stay and learn more about the topic that we have for you today. We are strong believers in partnership work. So if you're a family member, a community member, or a staff, this session is for you. We want to officially welcome also the expert in the field that's joining us today for this session. We have Angelica Hurtado. And Angelica Hurtado is our San Bernardino County Program Manager in the area of EL and Biliteracy programs. Welcome, Angelica. ¿Cómo estás? How are you?
Well, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to work with our colleagues all over our county in San Bernardino. So thank you.
We know how busy you are. We have a large county. We are the largest county in the entire country. And you serve a lot of our families and students and staff around the area of English learners, dual programs. And right now, we know that you are a strong advocate and you help teachers and staff implement the English language roadmap. So we know that this has been out for a while and is important work in our students' lives, in our communities, in our schools. And yet sometimes when we talk about it, we ask ourselves still, what is the connection between the EL roadmap and our family engagement work? So thank you so much for coming in today and helping us make those connections. So to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about the history? How do we get here? What is the EL roadmap for California? Why was it developed? How did it get developed? And how are we where we are now with it?
Sure. Yes, I'll be happy to do that. Well, first of all, why do we even have the roadmap? So the roadmap is really a guidance document to help schools and districts and county offices to implement English learner programs based on research that has been done through our experts. And it also ensures that all of our English learners have access to a 21st century education and that they feel supported, that they feel welcome as they enter our schools, and that not only them as students, but also parents to feel welcome and embraced. And so you might ask, well, who was part of the development of this roadmap document? Well, there was a work group that met for about 2 years, and they provided input and they assisted in the development of the EL roadmap policy. And it was comprised of teachers, parents, there were administrators, superintendents, county office personnel, and also our advocacy groups like CABE and Californians Together. So very strong group. I wanted to show this slide because it really takes us to that history of us thinking where we were before and where are we now. Thinking about way back when bilingual education was not really accepted or thought of as, if you know a second language, it's a positive thing. That wasn't really acknowledged. But as you notice with the 1974, where we were back with Lau versus Nichols case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, all the way to like maybe midways where we had Proposition 227 in 1998, where it was all the English only law, and then going down the timeline where we are now, where with the Global Economy Initiative, Proposition 58 in 2016, which opened the door to bilingual education, multilingual education, and in 2017, where the EL roadmap was approved by the State Board of Education. So that was a big accomplishment. Just wanted you to see that where we were and where we are now. We've made long strides, very, very hard work, but we're in a good place now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for this historical piece. Yeah.
Yes, and so I have a video that I want to show you, a piece of the video where it shows the Board of Education adopting the actual document. And so it's a very historical moment. And if you will allow me, I will go there to take us there to watch the video.
And finish by saying
And I'm going to just take us to that part where I think is the most significant piece there. And then we'll see.
Very intense day. I was a part of this work group, and I want to just add a personal note to this because I think it's pretty surreal. And I've shared this with some of the members of the committee of the work group. I was a student at UCLA, a student activist protesting Prop 227 when it passed in 1998. And so it's humbling, and it's an honor to now sit here and be part of the decision making to pass a policy that would supersede that policy that was adopted in 1998, which really, as a Latina, as a bilingual learner, as an English learner, tried to strip me of my language, and it just brought me stronger to this place. To have that personal connection to policies that aim to really engage in subtractive schooling of who I was as a student and now validate my experience and my assets. I'm so grateful to God and to everyone else that allowed me to be at this place, now be firsthand. And it was done in such a collaborative way with a cohort of high caliber EL experts in a very in-depth way. We sat around, we talked, there was respectful disagreement. And I think it was a very thorough process. So I want to congratulate the department, and I want to thank everyone, the co-chairs and everybody that participated, making sure that we reinstate dual language opportunities for our students, including my two kids who were here earlier. So they came beyond 45 minutes. And I'm very excited for this, so I wholeheartedly support the recommendation. I motion to move the department's recommendation to begin public comment and everything else. So I'll just motion to move the department's recommendation.
Who was second? Thank you. Okay, now there's no further comment. Ready to vote? Hands that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
So as you can see, yes.
I always blink harder. I always get touched by that moment. Thank you for bringing that historical moment to us today, Angelica.
Thank you. Yes, very historical. And so with this, I want to show you just a little infographic just so that it summarizes and define the EL roadmap. It has three components. It is defined by the state board policy. It is a guidance document, and there is a web-based resource site in the California Department of Education. Lots of resources there. You talk about policy and guidance. Well, the difference between the two is that the policy is actually adopted by the Board of Education. And it really means that the schools and districts use the policy to implement their programs. And then the guide is really that document that was created. And it means that the schools and districts may use this guidance document to implement in their LEAs or schools.
Wow. This is so much to take in. It's so and you know, I'm an English learner myself. Once an English learner, always an English learner. I came to this country in 1998. So to me, it's, you know, this is so close to home, right? Because it's the life that I lived and the opportunities and the cultural piece that's so embedded in ourselves. So feeling the acknowledgement as a student and being recognized that you have strength that you bring in and you're going to build on those strengths is so important. And to see as part of the history that there's policy and guidance to it, it really is resonating with me. And I'm sure with everybody who's sitting in and watching this video. So I want to kind of dive in deeper because we see the importance of it. And as a family and community engagement staff, I know when it first came out, I asked myself, what's the connection between the EL roadmap, the California EL roadmap, and the work that I do? And at the time, I didn't know. And it took a while for me to understand those connections. So can you help us here collectively with our community partners, staff that are joining in this session, and families? Can you help us make that connection as in how did this this policy and guidance document help us do our work as family and community engagement staff better? What can we do and what are the connections?
Yes, thank you for asking that. That's very important. And that takes us to talking about the 4 principles, because you're going to see where family engagement fits in. I do want to say that this is an optional slide or link for you to go. If you want to see Dr. Lori Olson give a summary of the 4 principles. But I would like to do it personally for you and start with principle 1, assets-oriented and needs-responsive schools. And Marissa, you mentioned about schools really looking at assets of the school of the students, and this really talks about that. Not only from kinder, elementary, but really starting in preschool, starting from preschool all the way to 12th grade, and really being responsive to the different strengths and needs of our students, looking at the social emotional health of our English learners, but really valuing the cultural and linguistic assets that our students bring into the classroom, and really making this important to have a safe and affirming school climate for our students, and building that strong family, community, and school partnership. So this is where you can see yourself in this principle. Number 2 talks about intellectual quality of instruction and meaningful access. So this really talks about making sure that our English learners really have those rich learning experiences and building their English language development throughout their instruction and having that protected time for when they learn English. And that's going to give them that meaningful access to the full standards and the relevant curriculum.
Right.
Yeah. So principle 3, systems condition that support effectiveness. This talks about our leaders, having leaders and educators that are knowledgeable and are able to take that, that risk and to being responsive to the strengths and needs of our English learners and their communities. And also maybe as school leaders, district leaders, using valid assessments and valid data to really inform the instruction to move forward in the continuous improvement cycle for our English learners. And then, making sure that each level of the school system provides the resources that our teachers need, giving them that professional development that they need so they feel that very, strength and positive about their job and their duties. And then finally, principle 4 talks about the alignment and articulation with and across systems. So really looking and seeing our English learners, their experiences, and having really coherent and articulated systems where the elementary talks to the middle school talks to the high school, and building those pathways across the grade levels. And then eventually leading them to reclassification, to graduation, to higher education, to career opportunities, and having our English learners participate in a global, diverse, multilingual 21st century world. So I want to go back to principle 1 because it really hones in on building a strong family, community, and school partnership. And I just want to pose this question just so that you think about what particularly about this principle really stands out. We know that I already highlighted the family and community school partnerships, but there's, other things that will help our community and our English learners feel welcomed.
Thank you, Angelica. And I love in this slide that you've highlighted build strong family, community, and school partnerships, because now more than ever, we know, especially in the times that we're living, right? We're normally meeting face to face in a parent summit, but here we are virtually because our world has changed and we cannot deny that. And it may go back to somewhere what we had, but it may never go fully back. And so just in what we're living and experiencing right now, we know that the classroom has moved into the home. And so how do we build those strong partnerships? Because now more than ever, the student is navigating both the family, the home environment, and the school very closely. And so how do we make that home to school, school to home environment that's easy to transition and where the kid feels supported in both environments? And another one that really calls out to me, and I think I said it before, and you definitely walked us through how that piece is so important in the EL roadmap. It's building upon the cultural and linguistic assets of our students and our families and bringing that into a safe environment in education. A lot of this resonates with me. So thank you for making that connection for me, as in how this is starting to really dive into the home piece and the family engagement component. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And I'm glad you mentioned that piece about the online now that we're virtually, right? So the next slide talks about making it real, and that ties to what you just said. In the past, we were face to face with our students, but so if we were to think, if we were in a school, if we were in a classroom, what evidence would we see that principle number one would be enacted? Mm-hmm. And then we can also say, well, what would be some signs that it's not being enacted? Okay, but I'm also going to invite Marissa for you to give me some ideas outside of this, like what about the virtual situation now? So I'm going to just kind of exit from here.
I'll be the student.
Okay, you be my student. And
we'll be thinking partners and student.
Okay. So you can just tell me and I can type. We work together.
Okay. So we're looking at evidence right now?
Yeah. So what evidence would it be if you walk into a classroom, you walk into a school? What would give you that indicator that principle one is in place?
Well, the first thing that I love to see in schools is the signage, right? So when I drive in, the welcome sign, is it posted in more than one language? Because, and we know that we live in California. Spanish is a very it's dominant community in language in our state, but it's not the only one. So in my kids' school, we have a lot of families who speak Mandarin. So making sure that they feel welcome and seeing maybe the welcome sign in different languages.
That's very good. Yes. And so then you would also see, like photos of family members, maybe, in the classroom, the teacher would have photos of family members.
Yes.
So that kids see their heritage there in the classroom.
And right now that you mentioned heritage, I think, we do a good job about like Cinco de Mayo, or, in February, we're honoring our African-American culture, but I don't think it should be limited to that time. I think like throughout the year, we should honor our family. So different cultural pieces throughout the year to celebrate our families and their cultures.
Definitely.
Not just on one day or 1 month.
Yes, having it throughout the year.
Yes.
Yeah. Another one I think we can put here is if we were in a classroom face to face, it would be that the seating would lend to collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
For our students to really build that language and feel comfortable. Yeah.
Yes.
So those are a few. Thank you for that.
Now, but if we are in a virtual world like we are right now, yes, I think in evidence, I think maybe inviting your kids, my kids have the check-in time. And like we just had a holiday that just passed, right? So maybe in that check-in time when you're taking roll call, just having them share a little bit of what did you do that's, connected to your family. What kind of food did you eat? What kind of music do you listen to? Maybe even having, when you welcome students into the Zoom meeting, different music featured. Today we're featuring, I don't know, Vicente Fernandez from Mexico and Andrea Bocelli from Italy, and maybe picking different music, different singers that, as a student, when I sit in and I think, oh, wow, my teacher's playing that song that my mom listens to, you feel somewhat connected to that environment.
Yes. And I'm just putting in here that if it was, now that we are in a virtual world, so so doing that check-in, before you even start teaching, get to hear about your students.
Yes.
Yeah.
So important. Thank you. This is great.
Oh,
Okay, so those are evidence. Are we looking now at evidence that it's not?
Yeah, that is
Okay.
not. So I would probably, and believe it or not, this has happened where, there's no translation for parents,
Yeah.
their meetings.
And going back to signage, if you know that a lot of your families are families of English learners, not having signage, it lets them know that, it adds to a frustration a parent experiences when they walk into a campus.
Yeah.
Now I need to find out like where the principal, where the entrance is, and just that welcome alone just makes it feel welcoming. But if you have some signage like entrance, entrada, or, in any other language that families recognize. Okay.
Do you want to do one virtual?
Yes, let's do one virtual. Well, I think it's, not an evidence. It would be maybe not having any kind of connection to cultural, um, I guess, values or traditions, especially because right now we're, as a mom, I hear my kids' teachers in Zoom all day. So, maybe the teacher having not making ever any connection to different cultures, different roots, knowing that you're teaching into the home right now. So it's a missed opportunity, I would say.
It's a great way of putting it. You're right. Because right now families are so participating. They're in the home. Yeah, the education's in the home.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you. This is great.
Welcome. Yes. So let's we'll go back to our presentation. So thank you, Marissa. You're a great student.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'll ask you about my grade later.
I want to take you now to, we brainstormed with Marissa, but the EL roadmap document does have indicators in there where you can really see what would it look like to put these principles in action. And so these are some of the ones that are listed there in our guidance document. As you can see, we talked about welcoming and having a safe environment. We also have our family and community connection in there. And then also building our dual language and biliteracy programs, making sure we have the home language and that the parents are invited as well, and students are affirmed for where they come from. But I want to focus on the family and community connections now. And so if we're talking about specifically family and community connections, these are some of indicators that you might want to see or implement, or help your staff do some of these. But really having parents or family members as volunteers, we know that we're in a virtual world, but you can still invite them as having them to contribute to whatever the students are learning. They could be informants for you in terms of bringing information to be able to connect to the instruction. We talked about sharing family photos, and maybe posting them like in a collage for the students, and also having students encouraged to depict their culture and identity. If they want to draw about it, even in the covers of their books or anything like that, virtually as well as they draw on their computer.
Angelica, right now, as you go, sorry, one idea that I thought, speaking of pictures, it would be an awesome assignment to have families or parents turn in a picture that they choose to, and maybe the teacher, when they do the check-ins, they can pick 2 or 3 kids to show the picture and say, hey, one thing that you want to share about this picture. And then, because in Zoom, you have control of what you want to share, right? So as a teacher, maybe pick 2 or 3 pictures to feature each day, and have the students say something about their culture or their family or their language or something they like, or why was that picture important to them. And throughout the 2 months or a month, you can actually connect with every student in the class that you have and highlight their strengths and their roots. That I would love something like that to happen to my kids.
Yeah, so imagine parents feeling proud of that, but the students, mainly the students feeling so affirmed.
Yes.
Thinking that, hey, I have something to contribute and celebrate.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And so with this one, we're talking about the homeschool connection and having activities and projects where we can engage our students in talking with their families about the key topics, about the curriculum, about tapping into the family funds of knowledge. And when we say funds of knowledge, we know that our parents, no matter what profession they have those funds of knowledge. They have that knowledge that will eventually somehow connect to what you're doing in the classroom, And so you can also have events that are regularly scheduled, and maybe they can become routines where the family engages in maybe like a gallery, maybe virtual gallery of end of the unit, or maybe inviting a family member to come and do maybe a read aloud for the students. So those are possible things that can be done. And there's a last one that I have here, and of course, having guest speakers from either from the family or extended family or the community. So anything that's connecting with our students, because they know that we know that that's important.
Thank you, Angelica. These are great examples. Thank you for making the connection to family engagement. And again, if we are not in the classroom, we are still advocates, and family engagement staff works side by side with teachers, supporting them to make that connection to the home. So even having those conversations with teachers, giving those ideas, prompting those activities, maybe supporting them in the classroom, in the virtual environment right now. But also if you have a parent center, maybe even having those activities with your families at the parent center in a virtual environment right now. So thank you so much for making those connections with us, Angelica. And my next question would be, if I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, this is great, these are great ideas, but how do I know if I do it right? How do I know I'm in the right path?
Yes, that's an excellent question, because we're talking now about more or less the assessment, right? Mm-hmm. So there is a very wonderful tool that it's called the Selfreflection Rubric. And so here's a picture of it, but you can use this, and anybody can use it. It can be the teacher by him or herself. It can be a principal with a leadership team. It can be all school-wide, district-wide, however you would like to use it. But it's mainly indicating to you where you are on the continuum of the implementation of these 4 principles. So for instance, here we have the rubric, and if you see my cursor, we can see that we're talking about principle number 1. It lists the name, but it also gives you a description here. And then down below, each principle has elements that support the principle. So for here, we have the first one, which is letter A. It talks about languages and culture and the assets of the students. And so the person would read this description and then go across to the right and say, okay, are we minimally being responsive, or are we in the middle, or are we number 4, very responsive? So it talks about here, the description being here like very little visibility of this, to being very dedicated and being very responsive, and being very engaging. And so you see that continuum there. So that's how you can use this. And you can just put an X where you think you fall, or wherever the school is. And eventually you're going to see a trend. When you see all of the elements, you'll see a trend, and you'll see, oh gosh, we need to work on this area.
This is good. This is, it's kind of like a roadmap, literally. It's a roadmap. So what are the next steps that you would suggest if we're sitting here and we've learned a lot from what you shared with us today? Thank you so much. Gracias. I can't thank you enough. What would be the next step for us to really make this happen at our site or with our district?
I'm glad you asked that, Marissa, because, once we are holders of the information, then it's our job to share, right? To make sure that it goes to the right hands. And so some of the next steps is making people aware of the roadmap. And when we say people, it can be any stakeholder that you work with. Also share it with your families at DLAC so that they are aware of the roadmap. And by the way, it's in Spanish as well. It's in different languages. I'm going to give you a link where you can get the resources. But also, try and have conversations with staff during maybe the professional development days. Bring it in as maybe like your PT for that hour, so your staff learns about it. You might want to share the principles with a board member or cabinet. You never know when you see that board member in the building and you're like, hey, I just learned about this roadmap. And that takes us to the last bullet. Have an elevator speech. Like a maybe 3-second, 10-second, a minute elevator speech to share with any stakeholder about the roadmap.
That is so true. Having that elevator speech that we can immediately make a connection or raise some questions and have people think about it. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And so I want to share some resources here. The links are live, and you can always go in there and look for more resources. The one here from California, from CABE, it really has it even has like a little trifold where it's a little pocket size where you can put it in your purse or pocket or in your wallet and share it with anybody. And the one I really want to recommend as well is this last one, the EL Roadmap Hub. You will find so many resources there for any stakeholder, teachers, principals, parents, and in different languages.
This is great.
Yeah.
And I just want to announce that all of the information Angelica is sharing right now with us with the resources, we'll provide a handout that you can download. So a handout should be downloadable attached to this video. That way you can have all these links to go to.
Okay. And so I want to, we're towards the end of our presentation, and I want to share this video from Anaheim Union High School District, who really took the roadmap and truly started implementing as soon as they found out about it. So I'm going to share it and take us there.
I want to thank the State Board of Education for approving a transformational document called the EL Roadmap. This does 3 important things. First of all, it changes how we look at students from sort of deficits and stigmatizing them to assets, bringing in their rich cultural and linguistic heritage. And it also outlines a pathway to multilingualism at the schools called the Seal of Biliteracy. In our district, we have over 1,000 kids who receive that Seal of Biliteracy, showing that they're proficient in both English and a second language. We have several dozen who are triliterate, and we always have a few who are literate in 4 languages. Secondly, it provides and ensures that schools providing a whole curriculum for all of our children, including our long-term English learners, so that they have access to a rich VAPA experience They have access to career tech education. And most importantly, they have access to what the state calls the A through G requirements that qualifies them for UC and Cal State success. Thirdly, it ensures that districts and sites have a system of support, teacher and administrative leaders getting together to really looking at data and looking at gaps to close those gaps so we have more English learner success.
The English Learner Roadmap will guide teachers and schools to really value culture, language, and identity. As an English learner, I think this is important because when the school values who I am, including my language and my culture, it makes me feel valued, welcomed, and part of the school community. It makes me feel like I belong.
And with the English Learner Roadmap schools, we not only value students, but also value families and communities by building strong partnerships. I know this is important because parents want to be involved and want to be part of the school community.
The English Learning Roadmap will make sure I have meaningful access to all the standards and curriculum, as well as an opportunity to develop my proficiency in English and other languages.
It's important that I have the same chance as others to take the courses I need to achieve my goals. I will be able to participate in the same positive learning experiences just like everyone else.
The California English Learner Roadmap will guide schools to look at my strengths and needs as an English learner. Schools will look at how I'm doing and we'll put together a plan to make sure I have the support I need. This matters because I want to be successful in school and in life. My family is counting on me to do my best, so it's important that the school has a plan to help me succeed.
The English Learner Roadmap guarantees I will have the skills I need for college and careers. I will be able to participate in a global, diverse, multilingual 21st century world because of the English Learner Roadmap. I am grateful that California has this roadmap for schools.
So taken together, these three important transformations will help propel California into the 21st century.
Beautiful.
Yes, so let me take us back to our PowerPoint here.
Thank you, Angelica, for that video.
And so that video is available. Anybody can access that video if you ever want to show it.
Thank you. So thank you for that. And I feel like you gave us so much information, so many connections. How can we stay connected with you if we have more questions?
Okay, so I did include my email down here at the bottom. And right now we're not in the office, but you can always email and I will be glad to respond to any of your questions. And I'm really happy that I was able to bring this information to all of you and give you a summary, because I know that, it could be a whole day worth, but it was great being here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Help me celebrate Angelica. Here you go. I have like a little party theme right there. And then give her a round of applause. Thank you so much, Angelica, for bringing this to us today, to our familia. I know we know how busy you are. So thank you for making the time to be with us. So now you know we don't have this live, but if you have any questions, please reach Angelica Hurtado in the emails there. And once again, all of the documents that she shared are downloadable in the handout provided to you with this link. Thank you so much, Angelica. Any last words? Última palabra?
Ooh, transformational.
Great.
With the EL roadmap, we can transform, our programs for our ELs. Yes.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will have to say inspired. Thank you for inspiring me to continue to do this work and advocacy for our kids, our English learners. And so all of our kids have more access and equitable opportunities for them. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the conference, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.